voice.
And Jim Webb joins us now. Welcome back, Senator. So we saw the video. We saw your speech to the Firefighters Union. You're going to South Carolina this week. What are you up to exactly?
Well, we're actually truly exploring whether it is possible to conduct a viable campaign in this present environment where money is flooding the political process.
Is it possible?
I think it might be. We're listening. We've been around. We've got a lot of support, through people coming across emails, internet, and for me, we need to be focusing on the dysfunction that's occurred in our economic system, and also when you look at this issue that you were just discussing with the Iran situation. There are the true constitutional challenges in the relationship between the president and the Congress.
I want to ask you about both that. You've written about on Iran in the past about Congress basically becoming complacent, abdicating its responsibility on foreign affairs. Does that mean that you actually support this initiative on the Republican side?
It's interesting because I worked with Bob Corker a lot. We were on the Foreign Relations Committee together. He did not sign the letter that was addressed to the government of Iran, which I think was just a silly mistake. But the issue
sending
itself,
the letter or not signing?
Sending the letter was a serious, I think, error if the Republicans wanted to address this issue. But all the way back to the Bush administration on the Strategic Framework Agreement in Iraq, when President Obama went to Copenhagen and announced that he was going to bring back on the climate change, when he was going to bring back a binding agreement without consulting the Congress. I wrote a letter to him on that. The situation in Libya, with the unilateral use of force at a time when there were no treaties in effect, no Americans at risk. I was very strong on that. Actually, Bob Corker and I were together. So I think there's a legitimacy here in the notion that the executive branch has to come to the Congress on these issues that impact the country.
Even if in this case it means there won't be a deal?
Well, I think that you need to bring these things to the Congress. For instance, on the Strategic Framework Agreement with Iraq, with the Bush administration, we did not get a full discussion of that. Possibility of voting on it. The Iraqi parliament voted on it twice. So the idea that the executive branch can negotiate these comprehensive agreements without the full participation of the Congress, I think is a wrong idea.
Let's talk about economics as well. In that speech we showed, you also talked about, quote, powerful financial interests spending billions to elect people who think the current drift toward a permanent aristocracy is okay. Flesh that out a little bit. Who are those interests, and how are they encouraging a permanent aristocracy?
Well, I think if you see what has been happening to our country over the past 20 or 25 years or so with the economic model. First, the model itself has broken apart. The traditional model has broken apart. The employment model that was based on full-time employment, manufacturing base, taking care of your working people, fell apart a lot when the manufacturing sector itself was hurt so bad over the past 20 years. But the other thing is, you're seeing that if you have capital, if you have assets, you're doing pretty well. The stock market has almost tripled since April 2009. If you don't, and this is particularly true right now with the generation that is coming into full adulthood, they don't have that model anymore. They were doing part-time jobs, consultancy jobs. They've got student loans to pay off. They're wondering whether they're even ever going to be able to own a phone. You've got to level the playing field in terms of how we take care of working people. Full-time, good jobs. I think that the system is, in a way, becoming rigged against working people. They're getting these part-time jobs. My oldest daughter's a good example of this. She works for disabled American veterans. She loves her job, but she's brought on as a consultant. She has to pay her own self-employment tax. She doesn't have medical. She doesn't have retirement, and this is becoming a model for the generation that's coming along. The other part of it is the people at the very top clearly have moved away from everyone else in our society and the benefits that they are receiving, largely through stock options and executive compensation that would never have existed 30 years ago when they were measuring corporate compensation by the earnings of a corporation rather than the price of a stock.
I know you've been reluctant to speak about Hillary Clinton, but you've had some tough words about both Clintons in the past. You said once they were the most corrupt administration in modern memory. Also wrote that Bill and Hillary's misadventures in the White House showed they were convinced the law didn't apply to them. Do you stand by those words?
Well, I think we threw a lot of bombs during that period. And I think what we need to do is look forward now. I think the American people want to hear from all the candidates about the issues that are going to concern us in the future. And the one thing that I think I can bring to the table, is one thing that has inspired me to at least take this journey, is that I have a long history of leadership. I was raised to be a leader in the military, 4 years as a committee counsel in the Congress, 5 years in the Pentagon, not just one term, 6 years in the Senate. And when people have come to me, as I have done this exploratory committee, one thing I'm seeing over and over again is we trust you. We don't agree with you all the time, but we trust you.
Sounds like you're ready to do this.
I'm really enjoying getting out and listening to people. We're going to South Carolina this week. We're going to be in Iowa in April. We're going to be in New Hampshire in May, and we'll see how it goes. If we can get the support, we'll continue to move forward.
We will be watching. Senator Webb, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up here.